side of him. I think he's still that same Steve. He's still that. But now you're also seeing another side of him that he never had to show.
Telling people you work with, I don't want you even to be next to me. Like, I have such disdain for you that I am annoyed by your presence.
His TV talk show.
Okay, this was the one he had on NBC just recently.
Whatever, yeah. The one that, damn, who took his show from him?
Kelly Clarkson.
How can Kelly Clarkson take your show?
I heard you go on the air and you said, my sister done burnt too many bridges and there's nothing I can do for her now. Steve, do you know how hurt I was?
In Hollywood, smiles can hide scars. Behind the glitz of fame, there's always a story few dare to tell. And for Steve Harvey, the man who went from homeless jokes to hosting the world's biggest stages, that story is finally breaking open. Because now the people who once called him brother are calling him out.
By the way, this is the same guy who rails against people who don't believe in his particular voodoo.
Right? Against gay people.
Against gay people, against Asian.
This is Steve Harvey's Stardom Under Fire, where comedians break their silence and the truth behind the laughter finally echoes back. Steve Harvey, the suit, the smile, the success story America loves. From Family Feud to Miss Universe, he's become the voice of hustle, faith, and second chances. Millions hang on his words about hard work, love, and God. But if you ask the ones who stood beside him on the road to fame, they'll tell you that image was crafted like a script.
You know, my thing with Steve Harvey is that he used my material on both his platforms.
Yeah.
After I talked to him, I saw him at Def Jam, I went up and talked to him, I said, man, you're using my material.
Every smile rehearsed, every speech polished, every move calculated. Because while the world saw a mentor, the comedy world saw something else, a man who'd do whatever it takes to stay on top. Back in the 1980s and 90s, before the talk shows and private jets, Steve Harvey was just another hungry comedian hustling across the black comedy circuit. Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, smoky clubs where laughter was currency and originality was the only rule. And there was a rule, the golden one. You don't steal another comic's joke, ever. Because in that world, jokes are sacred. They're your truth, your pain, your story. And that's where the cracks in Steve's legacy begin. Mark Curry's star of Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Back in the day, Curry and Steve ran the same stages. They shared hotel rooms, gigs, and late-night diners. But when the Steve Harvey Show hit television, Curry sat down to watch, and what he saw made his stomach drop. Bits he'd written, jokes from his own life, situations lifted word for word. That was my story, he said. Steve didn't live it, I did. It wasn't inspiration, it was imitation. And when Curry called him out, silence. Hollywood doesn't like noise that interrupts the money.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the stories. Thanks to my wife, I'm where I am. You said that about the first wife. You forget that? You told us it was her. Then you went and married somebody else that think like a man. Like, what are you talking about? They think they can rewrite history.
Don't appreciate their jokes being stolen, and Steve Harvey has rubbed several comedians the wrong way. Well, it looks like Harvey has found himself in some trouble.
No Halloween costume. I think we UPS, I guess, I don't know.
You've heard me say that every Halloween I had the same outfit on. I just had a brown box, and he just told me to tell everybody I was the UPS man.
My material on his show, so I had a beef on that.
On what show?
When he was on the bullshit talk show he had, and he did all my Halloween material one Halloween.
Says he knows that Steve Harvey stole his Halloween bit because it was a personal story. He was talking about himself growing up.
This cat is hot. Please put your hands together for Cat Williams.
Saying you are not supposed to be at the gas station making life decisions.
Can't even pump gas like you used to no more.
If you put $15 in your tank, you had time to bond with your vehicle. You had time to put the nozzle in and
put the nozzle in there and hit it.
Set the clicker and look through your car and clean off the dashboard and
be sitting there talking, be on your phone. Hey, what's happening? Be walking around, cleaning the windshield.
Run in the store, get some Pringles and a Snapper, and it'll still be pumping.
Okay, you go in there, bring me a wine cooler. Bring me a cooler, dog. Not no more.
You can't even turn around good for that son of a bitch click. Just soon as you put it in, just click, click.
Get in in there and start it up, and you can't believe that damn needle is a quarter tank of gas.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal and he wear a suit and then he gets this high top fade, making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business. And it's a man unit. Then you ask it, why you not a movie star? I didn't want to be a movie star. This the same that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk good over baby and look like Mr. Potato Head. There ain't none. You would have to have range. I played a lot of characters, 60 movie roles. I'm not playing Cat Williams.
Steve's career skyrocketed, while Curry's truth got buried under ratings and applause. By the 2000s, Steve Harvey wasn't just a comedian, he was an empire. Books, radio, television, clothing lines, even spiritual guidance. His message, faith work, success. But his peers say he forgot the faith part when it came to them. One former colleague said Steve smiles in your face, laughs with you backstage, then the next day he's pitching your material to a network exec. It's the kind of move that gets you far but leaves a trail behind. And that trail was about to get louder. Enter Cat Williams, the wild card of comedy. Sharp-tongued, fearless, unfiltered. When Cat speaks, the industry listens, even if they don't want to. And one day, he said it plainly. Steve Harvey ain't the king of comedy. He's the king of stealing jokes. He built his career on Bernie Mac's back. That line hit harder than a punchline ever could. Because Cat wasn't just calling out plagiarism, he was calling out loyalty. And that's where the story of the original kings of comedy takes a darker turn. Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Steve Harvey, 4 black comedians, one historic tour. It was supposed to be unity, a brotherhood. But when Bernie Mac died, things changed. Rumors started swirling that Steve used Bernie's death to climb higher, that he positioned himself as the last king standing, that Hollywood saw him as the safe face of black comedy, family-friendly, network-ready, non-threatening. Meanwhile, Bernie's raw honesty and grit were fading from mainstream memory. Fans started rewatching old interviews like that time on Oprah when Steve's tone about Bernie's success sounded jealous. Or when he said, "Some people ain't meant to be stars like me." It didn't age well, and suddenly, King of Comedy felt more like King of Controversy. Then came Monique, the Oscar-winning queen of real talk. When she spoke up about being blackballed in Hollywood, Steve Harvey didn't stand beside her, he stood against her. On live television, he told her, "You can't sacrifice money for integrity. This is the money game." That sentence broke hearts. To many, it exposed who Steve truly was, a man who valued image over principle. Monique said, "He taught me what side he was on." The same man who preached about faith and brotherhood was now defending the system that punished her. Fans called it a betrayal, not just of a friend, but of every comedian who ever trusted him. To the public, Steve Harvey was the motivational father figure. To his peers, he was the smooth-talking businessman who knew how to play both sides. D.L. Hughley, one of Steve's oldest friends, once said, "Steve knows how to survive in any room. That don't mean everyone likes how he does it." He wasn't wrong, because in Hollywood, survival often means strategy, and Steve had mastered the art of adaptation, knowing when to speak faith and when to sell fame. He told audiences to stay humble while negotiating million-dollar contracts behind the scenes. He told fans to trust God, but his colleagues say he only trusted power. And slowly, the line between Steve Harvey the man and Steve Harvey the brand blurred beyond recognition. Mark Curry wasn't alone. Other comics began whispering, small-time performers who opened for Steve or wrote for his shows. They claimed their jokes, their life stories, even their catchphrases started reappearing on national TV, polished and presented as Steve's own. One comedian said he watched Steve do his Halloween You Peace Man story on television, word for word, after sharing it in private. That's when the whispers turned to resentment, because in comedy, stealing a joke is stealing someone's soul. It's the unwritten rule, and Steve, they said, broke it again and again. But when you're as powerful as Steve Harvey, who's going to stop you? Nobody wanted to challenge the man who could end careers with a phone call. Until now. For every empire built, there's a cost. For Steve Harvey, that cost might be the friendships he left behind. From Bernie Mac's widow quietly distancing herself, to radio team members who said they were replaced once Steve got bigger, the pattern became hard to ignore. "Steve don't keep friends," one former crew member said. "He keeps opportunities." And maybe that's why the laughter around him feels colder now. because as his success keeps multiplying, so do the people claiming he took pieces of them to get there. Ironically, Steve's biggest brand is faith. Every sermon, every book, every viral clip paints him as the comeback king, the man who lost it all, prayed, and rose again. But critics say he's preaching about redemption while avoiding accountability. He tells people if you believe you're blessed, others will too. Maybe that's his secret, because no matter how many scandals or accusations surface, the public still sees the same smiling preacher in a designer suit, and every check he cashes proves that image sells better than integrity. Hollywood rewards two kinds of people, the talented and the tactical. The talented make people laugh. The tactical make people believe. Steve Harvey learned how to do both. While other comedians stayed loyal to their roots, Steve became Hollywood's safe bet, charismatic, polished, always ready to play the game. That's how you go from stand-up clubs to primetime TV. That's how you become a brand that sells books, suits, and dreams. But somewhere along that climb, authenticity got left behind. It's rare for comedians to turn on each other. There's an unspoken brotherhood forged in the grind, in the late-night gigs, in the shared struggle. So when multiple legends, Cat Williams, Mark Curry, Monique, all start telling the same story, the world listens. It's not bitterness, it's memory. And their stories connect like puzzle pieces, painting a picture of a man who never stopped climbing, even if it meant climbing over others. He used to be humble, one comic said. Now he walks past people like he forgot where he came from. Maybe fame didn't change Steve Harvey. Maybe it just revealed who he always was. Among all the stories, the one that hurts fans most is Bernie Mac. Bernie was the people's comedian, raw, honest, fearless. Steve was the businessman, clean, composed, careful. Two kings, two styles, one brotherhood. But when Bernie got his shot in Ocean's 11, sources say Steve called producers trying to get the role himself. Whether that's true or not, the rumor was enough to fracture trust forever. Bernie never publicly fired back. He didn't need to. His fans did it for him. And when he passed away, many felt Steve stepped into that spotlight a little too smoothly. As one fan said online, Steve didn't replace Bernie, he inherited the silence. Years later, Monique's words would reignite the fire. He told me to choose money over integrity, she said, her voice steady but hurt. And I realized then he was never my brother. That clip went viral, millions shared it. Suddenly Steve Harvey wasn't just a TV host, he was a symbol of Hollywood hypocrisy. And Monique, she became the voice for every black artist who'd ever been told to play the game. Their fallout reminded everyone that Steve's kingdom wasn't built just on jokes, it was built on silence. The silence of those who didn't speak sooner. The silence of fans who didn't want to believe. The silence of a system that rewards obedience more than honesty. In an old interview, long before the talk shows and bestsellers, Steve Harvey once said something haunting. "I've done things I ain't proud of," he admitted, "but when you're hungry, you eat what's in front of you." At the time, it sounded like a metaphor for survival. Now, it sounds like a confession, because maybe that hunger never went away. Maybe it grew with every paycheck, every camera flash, every sermon. And maybe the real Steve Harvey isn't the preacher on TV. He's the hustler who never stopped hustling. The internet never forgets. Old clips resurface, podcast rants go viral. And one by one, the pieces of Steve's polished image start to fall apart. Fans rewatch his interviews, the subtle digs, the arrogance, the contradictions. They start connecting dots between the man who says put God first and the man who built his empire on broken friendships. The question becomes louder than ever. Did Steve Harvey build his success or borrow it? And if he borrowed it, did he ever plan to give credit back? Yet through it all, Steve keeps winning. Every scandal fades, every accusation turns into another inspirational speech. Ratings rise, his books sell, his quotes trend. It's as if he's untouchable, bulletproof behind that perfect smile. Maybe that's because Steve understands the truth about fame.
People don't care what you did. They care how you make them feel.
And Steve makes people feel inspired. Even if the inspiration was borrowed, the impact is real. That's the paradox. He might be guilty, but he's still great at what he does. And that's what makes this story so complicated. Karma doesn't miss appointments. It just runs late sometime. For Steve Harvey, it might finally be catching up. The very comedians he left behind are now the ones redefining comedy for a new generation. Cat Williams is back on top, unfiltered as ever. Muna Cake is finally getting her flowers. Mark Curry's interviews are trending again. Meanwhile, Steve faces public scrutiny every few months over his marriages, his staff, his ego. The empire's still standing, but the foundation cracking. Because every kingdom built on silence eventually faces the noise. Maybe Steve Harvey isn't evil. Maybe he's just a reflection of a system that rewards the loudest hustler. In Hollywood, integrity doesn't pay as well as ambition. And Steve learned early that survival means smiling while you step ahead. The comedians he left behind still respect the grind. They just question the price. Because in the end, the story of Steve Harvey isn't just about stolen jokes or bruised egos. It's about how fame can twist faith and how charm can camouflage betrayal. He once said, if people believe you're blessed, they'll forget what you did to get there. Maybe that's his real legacy, not the jokes, not the shows, not even the empire, but the lesson that sometimes success isn't clean. Sometimes it's strategic, and sometimes the loudest laughter hides the deepest silence. So what do you think? Did Steve Harvey really climb the ladder by stealing and scheming, or are bitter voices trying to pull a legend down? Either way, one thing's clear, the laughter that built his empire now echoes with questions that won't fade away. Because in Hollywood, comedy is timing. But karma always shows up right on schedule. This is Buzz and Drama, where fame meets truth and legends meet receipts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. Because we've got more stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.